What are we fighting for, brothers? We're fighting for a righteous world. 2 Peter 3:13, we're fighting for a world of total righteousness. We're fighting for a world where we're going to be exalted, where we're going to be lauded, where we're going to be praised as the people of the Most High, as the Israelites, as the elect of the nation of Israel. Think about that, man. The elect of the nation of Israel, part of the 144,000. Think about that. Huh? That alone should inspire you. There's even a song, man. Oh, when the saints come marching in. We're those saints that's going to come marching in. Oh, I want to be in that number. We're in that number. We believe that according to faith. Come on, brothers.
Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessing and salutation to the hopeful elect out there, pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners, whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Shai. All right, and what I want to get into today is to continue on in the book of Acts. All right, made to the 4th chapter, and we're going to get an example, standing stiffly for the name, which through the whole book of Acts, this is the theme, okay, the apostles, as they're being persecuted, as Yahweh Shai warned them about, that they will be hated for his name's sake. He let them know, now which, this stands true for us today. All right. And this was true for them in this time after Yahweh Shai had resurrected. He was with the believers, then he went back to the Father and he sent them forth to teach. Okay. And he let them know, that they will be hated, okay, for his name's sake. Literally for his name, for speaking in his name, okay, which name goes into authority, okay, your rank, which you had the leaders, okay, of, the wicked leadership of Jake at the time. They was offended, okay, at the authority Yahweh Shai was proclaiming. They was offended at his rank, the Son of God, all right, the Messiah. You see, and that played a part, of, their continued persecution, even after Yahweh Shai was gone, but teaching in the name of Yahweh Shai, and the hatred and the opposition and resistance towards their name continued, in the book of Acts. Okay. Matter of fact, real quick before we even get it, let's get this in St. John chapter 7 and verse 7. All right, this is the book of St. John chapter 7, verse 7 said, the world cannot hate you, but me it hateth, because I testify of it, that the works thereof are evil. Okay, so the hatred that we're going to see, is aimed towards the apostles, is ultimately aimed at Yahweh Shai. Okay, because the testimony of Yahweh Shai condemned, their age back then, and it condemned this age now, which is the Greco-Roman Empire all over again. Okay, so the people that were offended back then, they're offended now. Just as the hopeful elect that they believed back then, they believe now. Okay, but this resistance to this word is out of hatred for Yahweh Shai. This world wants to continue on as it is. All right, this world wants to be unbothered. This age, okay, including those of Israel, those that know they're Israelites. Okay, because the chief priests and the Sadducees, these men knew that they were Israelites. They was brought up in the law. Okay, they were studied in the scriptures. You see, what they love this current age, this current world. We're going to show you that, got a little backdrop of history in the chat. We'll get into as well. Okay, but Yahweh Shai constantly warns. See, when you read the Gospels, Yahweh Shai was preparing the apostles for the things they were going to encounter for teaching His word. Okay, and they were witnessing His persecution by these same people. Okay, and He was prepping them, all right, for the persecution that they will receive. That's why Yahweh Shai was stern, with the disciples, before they came, apostles, getting them ready, for the hardness they was going to endure with the world. Okay, with the world of Israel, okay, the world in general. You see? So let's go to St. John 15 and 19. It said, if you were of the world will love his own. Okay? So Yahweh Shai knew he was different. He knew they was different. He know that he knew that them believing on him, that they was going to stand out. They was going to be outcast. Okay? The outlook, their perspective was going to be, all right, adverse to this world, to this age. Okay, said because you are not of the world, and because we are not of this age, we look at things through the lens of Yahweh Shai. We're looking at things, all right, from the viewpoint of a righteous judge. Okay, things that are cool in this world, all right, the cultural norms and what's susceptible of this world, the expectations of this world, okay, it directly conflicts, all right, it directly conflicts with the belief and the teaching of Yahweh Shai, okay, which is the end of this age. That's another thing. Yahweh Shai represents the end of an age, all right, and most people love this age. It says, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hated you. So he was constantly preparing the disciples, which will become apostles, for the treatment, okay, and the hatred they will receive for teaching in his name. Okay, so when you go to the book of Acts, chapter 1 and verse 4, it says, and they spake unto the people. It says, and as they spake unto the people, the priests and the captain of the temple and the Sadducees came upon them, being grieved that they taught the people and preached through Yahweh Shai the resurrection from the dead. So as they was teaching Jake, Apostle Peter was breaking down, the precepts, the spirit was on him, Jake is cut, but Jake is repentant. Jake was being cut by the sermon of Apostle Peter, but Jake was repenting. They was repentant, man. Okay, and the priests, all right, the captain of the temple and the Sadducees came upon them, and they was grieved, because they're in their mind, we get rid of Yahweh Shai, we get rid of the doctrine. There was almost like that decapitation, okay, strike. We see Esau do today. Take out certain leaders and key people, and he expect, the regime to crumble, you know. And Jake, they was in that mindset where we take out Yahweh Shai, everything else gonna crumble. Okay. But the exact opposite happened and spread. Okay. You see, they were hurt, you know. So let's go into, because the Sadducees, read on. It says, and they laid hands on them and put them in hold until the next day. So they was being put in holding. They grabbed them up. All right. For it was now eventide. Howbeit, many of them which heard the word believed, and the number of the men was about 5,000. The word was already out there. The word had already accomplished what it was going to accomplish. It says in Isaiah. Okay, the word had already accomplished what it was meant to accomplish for that moment. Okay, and 5,000 men had converted. All right, before they were snatched up. You see, and we have to understand, because some of us, gonna get snatched up. Okay, but at that point, the word, all right, is already gonna accomplish what the Lord wants it to accomplish, man. Okay, I think that's 55. So you get this Isaiah 55, man, which showed you the word of the Lord, reigns supreme. Okay, this is the book of Isaiah 55 and 9. It said, for as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain cometh down, and the snow, it says, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth. And his word is watering the earth, man, and it's watering the elect. Okay, so the Lord is allowing his word to have free course because the elect is being watered. Okay, the elect is being cultivated. And this is why it's vital, for us to make use of this grace, man. As we play our role in cultivating the elect with his word, as we're being cultivated. You see, we're being built up to a point to endure, okay, the troubles, all right, the persecution. Okay, and we're being built with the hope, with the expectation beyond the persecution and the trouble, man. Okay, he says, and make it bring forth and bud, all right, the elected bud, all right, in the earth, man. It said that it may give seed to the sower and bread to the eater. So shall my word, so shall my word be that go forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. Okay? So this word is going to prosper and accomplish exactly what the Lord wants. The elect going to be sealed. There's no stopping their process. Okay? The elect going to be sealed, all right, for victory over the beast. Okay? The elect going to be built up, to endure by this word, even to take the death if necessary, man. Okay? So there's nothing that can stop this word from having free course and the elect being sealed. Okay? And when they finally do snatch us up, it's a done deal. And there's a famine of the word, it's a done deal. Now it's on to the next phase. Now it's on to miracles and deliverance, man. The standard. You see? So, reading on verse 4 says, howbeit, many of them which had heard the word believed, and the number of men was about 5,000. And so church is growing, And it says, and it came to pass on the morrow that their rulers and elders and scribes, and Annas the high priest, and Caiaphas, and John, and Alexander, and many as were of the kindred of the high priest, were gathered together at Jerusalem. And when they had set them in the midst, they asked, by what power or by what name have you done this? Okay, so as they was teaching the resurrection of Yahushua, because it mentioned the Sadducees specifically as one of the sects, there was grief. Okay, and when you go into what the Sadducees, believe, it says the doctrine of the Sadducees. It said the Sadducees were a priestly, aristocratic group closely connected to temple leadership. All right, and the high priest, this was the sect, he was of the Sadducees. All right, so this was the aristocratic group, the elite families of Israel at the time. All right, and they had close ties with the Roman government. Okay, and these jakes were well off. You see, this is almost like on some black boule type. How the Sadducees was getting down, man. You know, and they wanted to be the gatekeeper of authority over Israel. You know, that's why Yahweh Shah was such a threat. You know, it was mainly the Sadducees, the Pharisees. You know, they was over righteous. You know, they was um unbalanced in the law. You know, so they look at Yahweh Shah. Um he was unorthodox in some of his ways, how he moved. Okay, and they was offended. You know, dealing with the Pharisees. You know, then you had some of the Pharisees that would convert. You know, uh, Apostle Paul was a Pharisee. All right, Joseph, Arimatheus, he was a Pharisee. And then you have the Sadducees, the upper echelon. Okay, of Jay, they was offended. And when you go into their doctrine, it said denied the resurrection of the dead. So they didn't even believe in resurrection. Denied angels and spirits, accepted only the written Torah, the first 5 books of Moses, as authoritative, rejected later traditions and much of the prophetic teaching. So they ain't believe in much of anything. You know, they was really pretty much Hellenized priests. Okay. It says emphasize temple worship and cooperation with Roman authorities. Okay, sell out niggas, man. You have a lot of Jake that's cooperating with Rome in this time, man. You see? So the Sadducees, you know, they was offended, highly offended at the teaching of Yahweh. It says why they opposed the apostles, said the apostles were preaching resurrection, which directly contradiction on sedation theology. The apostles taught that Yahweh had risen, undermining the Sadducees' authority in temple center power. Okay? So the Sadducees was the most offended sect out of all the sects that was against Yahweh because they were some worldly niggas, man. You know, they had no faith. Okay? They rejected, you know, most of the Bible. And Yahweh the volume of the book. Okay? It said this explains why Acts 4:2 specifically says they were greatly annoyed because they were teaching the people and proclaiming in Yahweh the resurrection from the dead. Okay? So they was highly offended. You know, the Sadducees that kicked up the most dust, all right, against Yahweh. Okay? So when you go into back into the book of Acts chapter 4, all right, it's the book of Acts chapter 4, verse 7 says, and when they had set them in the midst, they asked, by what power or what name have you done this? You know, so now they're being, you know, interrogated, okay, for doing these miracles. You see, it's showing you how off Jake is. Jake is so concerned about, you know, suppressing Yahweh that they don't even, you know, enjoy the goodness of the miracle. They can't even, you know, be in the spirit of joy because their fellow Israelite had just been healed. They didn't look at it that way. They looked at their authority, okay, being challenged. Okay, the authority that they had under Rome. Niggas cherished that, man. Okay, just like today, niggas cherish their positions given to them in Rome, their authority given to them in Rome. Okay, so the hell with, in their mind, the hell with their fellow brethren being healed. Okay, this is a threat to my authority, and that's how these men were thinking. It said, then Peter, filled with the Holy Spirit, said unto them, ye rulers of the people and elders of Israel, if we this day be examined of the good deed done to the impotent, all right, man, by what means is he made whole, be it known unto you all. You know, so Apostle Peter, well, y'all gonna press us about healing a man being made whole, a miracle. Okay, well, look, be it known unto you all, to all the people of Israel, that by the name of Yahweh Shai Hamashiach of Nazareth, whom ye crucified, whom the Most High raised from the dead, even by him doth this man stand here before you whole. So he stood stiffly for the name. He didn't budge. Okay, the name that he knew that they hated. You see? And we have that, and this is an example for us, man. Okay, when we get in the clutch to profess that name no matter what. Verse 11 said, this is the stone which was set in naught of you builders, which has become the head of the corner, which he's going into Isaiah. Okay, and Isaiah really, let me see, it's 28. Yeah. My fact, started at 14, and this is a cut to these niggas, man. Back then, and these niggas is back in their lot, man. The sellouts and coons for Esau, man. This is Isaiah 28 and 14 said, wherefore hear the word of the Lord, ye scornful men that rule this people, which is in Jerusalem. Okay? And the Lord will always address the leadership first, man. He'll always address wicked leadership first. Because the EJ's going to be held accountable. All right? That's why I said they're going to be beat with many stripes from being in these positions of leadership and being off, man. Okay? So he's directly addressing the leadership, man. Verse 15 said, because you have said, we have made a covenant with death. Jake had pacts with Rome back then. Okay, Edom, Rome back then, and Jake had them pacts now. A covenant with death, an agreement with death, man. Okay, you, Jake, sat down and have made an agreement with death, and you think you good. Showing you that the Most High has given you over to a reprobate mind, a mind void of judgment. Okay, how can you preach about the wickedness of the so-called white man, then gonna make a deal with him? Okay, showing you that the Most High, okay, can harden a nigga to think he right. Okay, and be dead wrong. Okay, I have no fear of doing wrong. Okay, and it says, and with hell are we in agreement. You see, and Jake, you're in agreement for you to try to suppress your house like these Jakes do now. Like I said, they less and less they call on your house and have reverted back to calling on Jesus Christ. Okay, because they're being told and commanded not to teach in their name. Okay, by by the Roman Empire, man, America, man. Okay, the new Roman Empire is instructing Jake, commanding these sellout niggas not to teach in their name. Okay, to cause confusion in the doctrine, because it says with hell is a condition. So Jake, you're cool with the condition of your people, all right, being at the bottom, your people getting worse and worse, more and more degenerate. Jake is cool with that, as long as he got his extra crumbs from Esau, man. So Jake is an agreement with hell. Okay, he made a covenant with death, an agreement with death, Esau, Edom. Okay, and an agreement with hell, man. You cool with the circumstances that Jake in, as long as you get your few extra crumbs, man. That's super wicked. It said, when the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us, for we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves, man. And you Jakes think that you got some type of protection from selling out to Esau. You think he's gonna look at you and give you some type of exemption when this man makes a move because you talk lies on his behalf? You cause confusion for his sake, and you think that he's gonna give you some type of pass when he makes his move, man. Okay, And then it goes straight into Yahushua, verse 16. Therefore, thus saith the Lord power. Behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation, which is Yahushua. And this is what we're built on. You see? And this is why the Apostle Peter was able to stand so stiffly, because he was standing on this stone, Yahushua, the sure foundation. Okay? That sure foundation not going to move. Okay? And this is why we're built up on the foundation of Yahushua, man. You know, that's what's going to withstand the storm. Those that's built up on the foundation of Yahushua. It says, he that believeth shall not make haste. Yeah, we're not going to be, all right, panicky in these times. Okay? Not going to be in the spirit of being impulsive. Now we're going to be on that rock, man. Okay? And that rock built for endurance, which is Yahushua. You see? Verse 17, it said, judgment also will I lay to the line, and righteousness, it says, and righteousness to the plummet, and the hail shall sweep away the refuge of lies, and the water shall overflow the hiding place. Okay, so Esau still gonna roll on you niggas, man, because the waters represent Esau coming in like a flood, overflow. So that secret deal, that hiding place, that secret deal that you made that you thought was going to be some type of refuge, when it goes down, okay, the Lord gonna have Esau to roll, and you know the Lord gonna have Esau rolling you niggas extra hard, man. Okay, it's gonna be an overkill what the Lord allowed Esau to do to you sellout niggas, man. Okay, verse 18, it says, "In your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand." Okay, so it's not gonna matter that you made that deal. You just able to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a moment, the pleasures of Egypt for a moment. As it spoke about, Moses denied those temporary pleasures. Okay, based on faith, he had an expectation of something better than this current situation. You know, and the true believers, beginning with the men whom the Lord has established, you know, to teach, have an expectation beyond this current situation. And we teach an expectation beyond that. Okay? It says, in your agreement with hell shall not stand when the overflowing scourge shall pass through, then ye shall be trodden down. Okay? But as that flood comes through, because we're going to be in the midst of it, we're going to be on that rock, which is Yahushua. We got a firm foundation. Okay? You're built up on lies and vanity. Okay? And you're going to be collapse. A lot of you jakes are being prepared for ultimate failure, man. You and your houses, man. Okay? So going back to the point, it says, verse 11. I started 10 again. I started at 10 again. It said, "Be it known unto you all and to all the people of Israel that by the name of Yahushua of Mashiach of Nazareth, whom you crucified, whom the Most High raised from the dead, even by him doth this man stand here before you whole. This is a stone which is set in naught of you builders, which is become the head of the corner." Okay? So this is a stone which was set in naught of you builders, which is become the head of the corner. Okay? Neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. You know, and we know that name also goes into what? Let's get it real quick. Let's get the word name. So you get this word name. Okay, in the Greek, the word is
Strong's G 3686. Anima.
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 Yep. So you go into it says name, universal, proper names, which is proper name is Yahushua. And we believe that, man. You know, we're not here to cast doubt. Okay. That's undebatable. All right. We believe his name is Yahushua. It's been shown over and over again. It's been broken down. Brothers and went into it, every angle that you can imagine. Okay, his name is Yahweh Shai. Okay, that's what we believe. You don't believe that? Cool. Okay. It said the name is used for everything which the name covers, everything the thought or feeling of which is aroused in the mind by mentioning, man. And when you mention Yahweh Shai, man, you think about the volume of the book. You think about prophecy. You think about, the end of this age. Okay. You think about the throne of David. Okay. You think about the true Israelites, who they are. Okay. You think about a righteous king. It's coming with authority and power to wage war in righteousness, man. You see, these are thoughts that are aroused when you mention Yahweh Shai. Okay, he said hearing and remembering the name, i.e., for one's rank, authority, interest, pleasure, command, excellence, and deeds, etc., man. Okay, so only by the authority, okay, and the interest of Yahweh Shai. Because scripture say, well, it's his pleasure. Fear not, little flock, it's his pleasure, okay, to give you the kingdom. Okay? The Most High say, well, he would do all his pleasure. His counsel shall stand. For the rank or authority in existence is going to save us, man. Except Yahweh Shai. Okay? It says, which is by the Father, by way of the Father. Acts 4:13, it says, now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Yahweh Shai, because Peter and John, these were what you would call, laymen. They didn't go to, okay, the schools of law, okay? They didn't come up in the schools, and learning, scriptures and precepts, okay? They were taught by Yahweh Shai, okay? So they looked at them as unlearned and ignorant men. Just as they would look at us, because we didn't go to theologian school. We didn't go to the colleges. Okay, we're not certified historians and architects according to the paperwork of Esau. Okay, but the Lord has a spirit on brothers, man, to go in, to tap in, to get into things, man, to get into the scriptures, to link scriptures with, certain history and artifacts, and whatever, man, geopolitics. And brothers didn't go to school for these things, man. It's a spirit that's working on brothers, man. Okay, brothers go into the herbs. Brothers be expert. Brothers be whole physicians, man. You see, and the spirit, teaches them, because scripture speak about how the spirit teaches of all things. All right, the spirit makes us experts, man. You see, we don't need this nigga's paperwork. All right, and this nigga be lying. This nigga paperwork be, all right, based on falsehood, man. Acts 4:14, it says, and behold, which was healed, standing with them, they could say nothing against it. So the man that they healed was standing right there. So Jake was like, damn, Jake was in the bind. Jake really couldn't press like they wanted to. It said, but when they had commanded them to go aside out of the council, they conferred among themselves, saying, what shall we do to these men? For that indeed a notable miracle had been done by them is manifest to all them that dwell in Jerusalem, and we cannot deny. So they're talking amongst themselves, so they put, the apostles out of the room, and they talking amongst themselves about what to do. But they did among people, let us greatly threaten them. Okay? So they like, we really can't do nothing. They ain't do nothing unlawful. They just healed them, man. So we can't just do what we want with them. They just threaten them. Okay? So they threaten them that they speak henceforth to no man in this name. And they called and they was offended at Yahweh. You know, their name was a terror to them because they in their mind they thought they had, you know, toppled, the doctrine, toppled the ministry. But on the contrary, it only spread. Okay, and Yahweh even said that. I think that's in the book of John. I think that's in the book of John. Let me see. Yep, it's the book of John, chapter 12, verse 24. It said, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit." Okay? So Yahweh Shah was that corn of wheat, that fell into the ground, representing his death. Okay? And then his death and resurrection, because when you plant something, it comes back up through the ground. You bury a seed, the seed comes back up through the ground. All right. And it bears many of what that seed is when you plant a certain seed. It bears many of what that seed is. If you plant an apple seed, well, the apple seed produces many apples. It produces a whole tree and produces branches. Okay, then it produces fruit. Okay. So Yahweh Shah was saying he had to go through that process, being buried. All right. And as he resurrected, it represents the resurrection of the church or the whole body. Okay. So now you look at the ministry, okay, Yahweh Shah being that vine, brothers in these branches are these different camps, okay, of GMS, or like the branches. Why you have the branch of GMS in Birmingham, the branch of GMS, Orlando, okay, so forth and so on. And what are those branches doing? They're bringing forth fruit, okay. But Yahweh Shai had to go through his process first. And this is the process that, can't be stopped. You Edomites and you sell out niggas can't stop the process, man. Okay? There's no you niggas listening. All right? And you Edomites are listening to every goddamn thing. You can't stop this process, man. Okay? So reading on, it says, and beholding the man which was healed standing with them, they can say nothing against it. But when they had commanded them to go aside, in fact, jump down. Verse 18, it says, and they called them and commanded them not to speak or teach in the name of Yahushua. But Peter and John answered and said unto them, whether it be right in the sight of the Most High to hearken unto you, all right, more than the Most High, judge ye. So look, he was like, look, so what should we do? Should we listen to you or the Most High? Okay, because Yahushua spoke on behalf of the Most High. All right, and they was commanded to go teach. Man, they was commanded. This wasn't a suggestion. Okay, this is what I'm saying. Jake want to be so big on the law and be perfect in the law and obedience, but then Yahushua gave a direct command. Yahushua is the king. He's the commander in chief. Okay, and he gave a decree before he left. Matthew 28:18 says, and Yahushua came and spake unto them, saying, all power is given unto me in heaven and earth, all authority. Okay, all authority is given to Yahushua by the Father. What Yahushua say, this is my son, all right, hear ye him. Okay, this is my son who I'm well pleased, hear ye him. He's vouching for the authority of Yahushua. Whatever he say, listen to him. I'm telling you, whatever he say, listen to him. Verse 19, go ye therefore and teach all nations, which are the Israelites amongst all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all the things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world, which is this time now. And also over in the Western Hemisphere, which is the end of the world, the uttermost part of the earth. Okay, so they was commanded by Yahweh to teach, man. He left that commandment with them. He told Peter, feed his sheep 3 times. You know, as the scripture say, he grieved Peter. You see, with telling him to feed his sheep. So going back, all right. So Peter's asking them, like, so I'm supposed to obey y'all or the Most High? What you tell me what I should do? Okay. It said, for we cannot speak the things, back in Acts 4:20, it said, for we cannot speak the things which we have seen. We cannot but, okay, for we cannot but speak the things which we have seen and heard. They was with Yahweh doing miracles. You know, Yahweh breaking things down to them, you know. So there's no way they can deny that and just go be normal now, man. You know, and Yahweh has allowed us in the inner courts in this time. Okay? There's no way that we can know what we know and truly believe and then just go be in the world and be normal, man. Nah, man. You know, them days are gone. Okay? Our hand is to the plow now. You know, we've seen too much, we know too much in the spirit. Okay? So just go be normal. Just because a nigga don't like it. Acts 4:21 says, so when they had further threatened them, they let them go, finding nothing how they might punish them because of the people. For all men glorified the Most High for that which was done. For the men was above 40 years old, on whom this miracle of healing was showed. And being let go, they went to their own company and reported all that the chief priests and elders had said unto them. You know, so they're reporting back to the church, you know, everything that was said and done. Okay. And when they heard that, they lifted up the voice, all right, their voice to the Most High with one accord and said, Lord, thou art power, which has made heaven and earth and the sea and all them and all that is in them. All right. So this was a faith booster to the church. You know, the chief priests and Sadducees, they looked at it as a scare tactic. Okay. But now it was a faith booster for the church. Acts 4:25, it said, who by the mouth of thy servant David has said, why did the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? Going to Psalms, the 2nd chapter, you know, because you had, you know, counsel against Yahweh back then, and now you have a major counsel against Yahweh now, you know, some global counsel against Yahweh. This new world order, you know, is to prevent Yahweh, to undermine Yahweh. What Esau Edom is doing with this new world order is to undermine Yahweh. And this is what these chief priests, okay, this is what they were trying to do, which they was an extension of the Roman government. They were trying to undermine Yahweh. Okay, now it's on a global scale. Okay, now it's, you know, based on technology, they're going to undermine Yahweh in this time. All right, which is a vain thing. Okay, he said the kings of the earth stood up and the rulers were gathered together against the Lord and against his anointed, for of a truth against thy holy child Yahweh, whom thou hast anointed, both Herod and Pontius Pilate, all right, which are Edomites, with the Gentiles and the people of Israel were gathered together. You know, so Yahweh, you know, will be considered enemy of the state and enemy of Rome. Okay? He was pretty much declared the enemy of Rome. A threat to the Roman way, Roman order. Okay? How much more today as Rome has been revived? Okay? With technology, man. You see? Verse 28 said, For to do whatsoever thy hand and thy counsel determined before, okay, to be done, which they had, Yahweh Shah had to be sacrificed, so the Lord allowed him to be, grabbed up, okay, given over to the Romans and sacrificed because that was the assignment, all right, from the jump, which was our victory, all right, that sacrifice, that bloodshed, well, that was our victory, and Yahweh Shah, he knew. That's why he asked for another way, but he knew he had to complete that assignment. He knew that was when he get no answer, that was the only path to victory for everybody, man. Okay, beginning with the elect. It says, And now, Lord, behold their threatenings, and grant unto thy servants that with all boldness that they may speak, all right, thy word. Yeah, they had boldness, man. And see, that's the thing we have to pray for in this time, and boldness to stand stiffly to endure. Pray for courage, because we're going to need a boldness from on high. We're going to need courage from on high, man, to get through these times. It's not going to be of us, man. It's going to, the Lord's going to have to put a mighty spirit on the believers in this time. And we know he's able. That's the thing. We know he's able. Ain't no doubt about it. We just pray that he do it for us. Okay? But there's no doubt that he's able. Acts 4:30 says, By stretching forth thy hand to heal, and that signs and wonders may be done by the name of thy holy child Yahushua. And when they had prayed, the place was shaken when they were assembled together, and they were filled with the Holy Spirit, and they spake the word of the Most High with boldness. Okay, so the Lord gave them this spirit of boldness. Okay, that place that they was in, it shook, and there was that power, from on high, that spirit of boldness, that entered into them, because they would need it for the rest of the the time, that they will be preaching and teaching in the earth. Okay, it says Acts 4:32. It says, And the multitude of them that believed were of one heart and of one soul. Neither said any of them that all of the things which were possessed, all right, which he possessed was his own, but they had all things coming, and with great power gave the apostles witness of the resurrection of the Lord Yahushua, and great grace was upon them all. Neither was there any among them that lacked, for as many as were possessors of lands and houses sold them and brought the prices of the things that were sold and laid them down at the apostles' feet, and distribution was made unto every man according as he had need. So the church was in unison. It was a one mind. It was selfless. They began to immediately take on Yahushua, the spirit of sacrifice, the spirit of oneness, the spirit of loving thy neighbors, thyself. They embodied it hard. The Church of Jerusalem, they embodied, their charity for one another, their love, their unity, okay, their selflessness, their sacrifice, okay, which are attributes of Yahushua. And coming to the times that we're coming into, we're going to have this same mindset, okay, of selflessness, man. We're going to have to be selfless on a whole nother level. We're going to have to really, have a oneness amongst ourselves to get through these times, because that's a part of it too. The miracles, of course, the provisions that the Lord already has set up, okay, the miracles it's already, appointed in their time, okay, and then there's going to be a dynamic dealing with, sacrifice and being selfless in that day, their willingness to give and, give up comforts for, all right, endurance. Verse 36 verse 36, it says, and Joseph, who by the apostle was surnamed Barnabas, was being interpreted son of consolation, a Levite, and of the country of Cyprus, having land, sold it, and brought the money and laid it at the feet of the apostles. Okay? So it was, charity, and I say it was oneness, it was togetherness, it was unity. Okay, under Yahweh Shah, all under the banner of Yahweh Shah. Okay, and it didn't matter, your status or your rank. It was all about oneness in Yahweh Shah. Okay, and the theme of it all, you seen, as we go here, because in order to get, to those crowns, all right, in order to overcome, okay, the storm, we're gonna have to stand stiffly. We're gonna have to be unmovable. You see, in these days, okay, and our forefather was an example of that. Apostle Peter, the apostles, their boldness, okay, is a standard. Our forefathers, all throughout the scriptures, man, you see the boldness of our forefathers, in the clutch, okay? They stood stiffly for Yahweh. All right, Joseph, they stood stiffly for righteousness, man, which is Yahweh. You go back to Joseph, okay? You go back to Daniel, all right, the three Hebrew boys, all right, Hananiah, all right, Ananias and Mishael. Azariah, Hananias, and Mishael. Okay, they stood stiffly. They didn't budge, man, when it came to standing for Yahweh Bashim Shah, man. And these things are noted. Eleazar, as we read about our forefathers, when they left a standard for us to stand stiffly and boldly to close this thing out. As we're coming down the stretch. 2nd Ezra 4:42. Now, 2nd Ezra chapter 2, verse 42. It says, I, Ezra, saw upon the Mount Zion a great people, whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord with songs. And in the midst of them there was a young man of high stature, taller than all the rest, all right, which was Yahweh Shah. And upon every one of their heads he set crowns, and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. So I asked the angel and said, Sir, what are these? He answered and said unto me, These be they that have put off the mortal clothing and put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of the Most High. Now are they crowned and receive palms. Okay, and this is the victory, man. This is the final victory over this beast system, man. Okay, not bending the knee to what the devil is rolling out and getting ready to present to the earth, man. Okay, there's a remnant that's predestined to have the victory over the beast. Okay, and we believe there's a good chance that it could be us, man. Okay, Lord will. Verse 46, then said I unto the angel, what young person is that crowneth them and giveth them palms in their hands, when palms represent victory? So he answered and said unto me, it is the Son of the Most High, whom they have confessed in the world. Okay? So we're going to constantly confess Yahweh, man, not only, through speaking his name, but through action, man, standing stiffly. Because there's no better way to confess Yahweh than to not bend the knee to this world. All right, not bend the knees to Baal, this beast system, man. Okay, even to die, it's a great honor to die for Yahweh, man. Okay, so ain't no losing for the elect, man, even in death. Okay, and it says, then began I greatly to command them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord. For the Lord's name, Yahweh, his authority, his rank. He's the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, man. Ain't no denying it, man. Okay, this is his world that he's coming to take. We in the position of kingdoms. Okay, and we stand stiffly for that. The throne of David will be established, man. Okay, soon. So, yeah, man, this is I guess that's a conclusion of it. We ended there. All right. So, Lord will, you brothers and you sisters edified once again. I'm gonna give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessing salutations to the whole flesh. Shalom.